98 Not Out, sponsored by Shepherd Neame, proud supporters of cricket in Essex.
I saw Bob Geldof on the One Show last night.
Was he good?
It was like an advert for shelter.
There you go. So anyway, there is loads of breaking news, and we are pleased to say we are joined by the Daily Mail chief cricket correspondent, Paul Newman. Paul, how are you?
Hi, Brett. I'm good, thanks. You?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Now, you and many others seem to get a bit of wind of this last night, that they're talking about abbreviating the season, and it looked like there won't be any play till August, and now it's been confirmed, hasn't it?
Yes, on the face of it, I guess it's bad news in that the delay has now been confirmed to August the 1st, and that's coincided, of course, with the news in recent minutes that the Premier League's coming back on June the 17th. So it sounds like it's a blow, really. That people are saying, why does cricket have to wait so long? But I'm thinking of it as good news, because it wasn't that long ago that I really felt that there'd be no domestic cricket this season at all. So there now seems to be genuine optimism. We can get a 2-month season in from August the 1st, and I think the plan is to come back very soon after that date, if not on that date itself. And all of a sudden, we do now seem to have some sort of championship campaign and some sort of T20 campaign very much on the table. And so I think of that as good news, really, even though I guess it looks a little odd that the game's coming back so much later than Premier League football. Obviously, the international game is going to come back sooner, I believe, and I think it will be confirmed tomorrow by the ECB that they plan to come back on July the 8th with the first test against the West Indies at the Ageas Bowl. That's very much the hope.
There's a lot sort of moving in that direction, isn't there, with both the ECB and the West Indies Cricket Board to try and make that happen? Yeah,
there's been a lot of talks. I know you've got Jason Holder on the show, and that's a brilliant coup for you. I've spoken to Johnny Grave at the West Indies Board and various people at the ECB, and I do think there's been a real will to get it on. And for some time now, we've felt that the target is July the 8th in Southampton, and I do think, Darren, that's going to happen, touch wood, unless we have a terrible increase in cases over the next few weeks, and obviously everything will be back to square one. But things seem to be moving quite quickly now, almost daily, and I'm now pretty confident we're going to get 2 months of international cricket, and a real bonus, we could get 2 months of domestic cricket, and I think that's fantastic.
Paul, why do you think there's such a delay to get domestic cricket back? Because I understand the need, they want to get the international stuff back first, but I can't see why they can't do the two concurrently and get them all going that soon.
Yeah, I think it's money, Brett. I think basically it comes down to the bottom line in that for so many counties, behind closed doors is just not worth it, because obviously behind closed doors is worth it for England because they get their TV money, which is so important to them. But at the moment, all counties bar Surrey and Lancashire have furloughed their playing staff, as we know, so that if they do have to bring their playing staff back, and yet they still have to play behind closed doors, so there's no match day revenue, then I think a lot of counties have said, well, what's the point of that, basically? We're going to lose even more money if we do it that way. So I think that it's taken a while to sort of talk around a lot of people into realising this is a good idea. I think Surrey has been at the forefront of this. We know they're, English cricket's richest county. They're also a very progressive county, I believe. I know we're all Essex men here, but I do like a lot of what Surrey do these days, and I think they've been very much behind this. That Richard Gould in particular is not wanting to give up on the domestic season, when a lot of people have said, look, let's just furlough our staff for as long as possible. We're not going to make any money with behind closed doors cricket, and let's all come back again next April and start from scratch. But Surrey and some others, to be fair, have said no. Let's try and get this on. And I think the bigger counties are now think it's very feasible that they can get small crowds. The big capacity test grounds will be able to get 3,000 or 4,000 people in.
Sorry,
you're
talking about 6,000.
I get that. I still don't get though. Why the delay then? If they're going to go from August, why aren't we going from the 8th of July, the same as international cricket, or the 15th of July a week later? Because it's another couple of weeks of cricket, whether it be with reduced numbers. I know they're talking about free streaming on YouTube. A lot of the counties do this already. Yeah. I mean, there's surely an opportunity here to talk to other TV channels about streaming it live, whether it be BBC, ITV, or even Amazon, and getting some money in that way, even if it's small amounts of money. Something's got to be better than nothing here.
Yeah, I think it's basically that this trying to convince everybody that that it is the way forward while they're furloughing their players and while they might have to go behind closed doors, and I think basically that extra month might be a sort of cause for thinking that there will be the capability to get some sort of spectators into the grounds by then. Also, possibly, so much has been going on with the international programme that's taken up a lot of the ECB's sort of attention, I think, because it's so important to the sort of financial future of the game that maybe, quite simply, they haven't put as much effort into domestic cricket. I do think until very recently it was perceived to be really unlikely, to be honest, that it would be able to be played at all. So maybe not quite as much energy has gone into it. I do take your point that it seems a long time after international cricket. It seems an awful long time after the Premier League. But I think that people are still getting their heads around the fact that they might be able to get 2,000 or 3,000 people in these bigger grounds, and also convincing some of the smaller counties that it will be worth their while to get the game on. They've got to get their staffs out of furlough, haven't they? And they've got to get them start playing again. A lot of these
is there any talk of
not anything?
Is there any talk of support for the smaller counties? Because obviously it's an important thing that if they do start playing, this furlough issue becomes quite serious for some of these smaller counties. Is there talk of some sort of help, whether from the ECB or from central government, to try and prop up these clubs' finances?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there was an advance, wasn't there, at the start of all this? The ECB gave the counties an advance on the money that they were entitled to this season, even though there was the prospect of no cricket. And I think part of the argument for getting the international game on as quickly as possible is that then the ECB say they can afford to give the counties all that's due to them for the rest of this season, really, if they do that. They've estimated that their losses for the game as a whole go down from 380 million to 100 million if they do play these two test series against West Indies and Pakistan, and the one-day games against Ireland, Pakistan and Australia. So I think basically all the energy's gone in on that, really, and now it's only recently that people have sort of woken up to what Surrey, for one, have been saying, and possibly Lancashire as well. They came out last week, didn't they, and said, we think we can get cricket on with crowds this year. And I think that basically they've won the wider game around as to the fact that this could happen. And as you say, Brett, there are other revenue streams that they can try and bring money into this TV-wise. Whether that goes against existing contracts, I don't know, but we're in extraordinary times, aren't you? And I do think there's a will from Sky and from everybody involved in cricket to just do everything they can to make it happen. There's no foot stomping. There's no what are we going to get for our money or this, that and the other. There seems to be a will. So I like to think of August the 1st as good news, really, still, even though it does seem to be a long time still for people to wait, and when there's no sign yet of the resumption of the recreational game. So if we do get, a championship, I'd like resign myself for weeks now that we wouldn't get any sort of championship. So if we do get a 5-game conference championship, which is what they're talking about, with, for the first time since the 1990s, all 18 counties having a chance of lifting the championship, really, if you think about it. If it's 3 conferences with a final at Lords, which is being proposed, I think that's a pretty good
pretty
good prospect.
Final, isn't there?
I'm not quite sure whether they're going for a 5-day final.
Because of the daylight.
It could easily be 4, couldn't it? At a time when people are talking about 4-day test cricket, I don't see why it can't be 4. But anyway, a championship season with a final at Lords, I think will constitute a championship, really. There's talk of whether it should still be a proper championship, whether, we should put an asterisk by it or just call it something else. But I reckon that's okay, really. I can see Essex defending their crown on that one. And if we get a similar sort of blasting with a finals day at Edgbaston, then fair play to that as well. And I know the 50-over competition has definitely gone now, but we can go on till early October, really. So if you've got 2 months full cricket, August, September, with a possibility of a few days in October as well, obviously, we know that it's bound to rain as soon as cricket starts. After all this lovely weather.
I was just about to say, hasn't it? It's been probably one of the most glorious starts to the summer we've ever known.
Hasn't it been heartbreaking, to think we can't get out there and play and watch cricket? But I'm trying to look at this positively, although I do appreciate why people will be frustrated it can't be sooner. We're still in May, and we're having to look ahead till August for this. But if this happens, and if the test series happens in July, and we don't get another spike, and it all goes ahead, I think cricket will have come out of the whole terrible crisis that we're all experiencing, pretty well, really, and hopefully that will set the sport up to to survive in its current form in the long term.
Do you think the global calendar has an impact as well? Because sort of looking into sort of October and beyond, things are starting to back up a little bit. You've got the T20 World Cup at that time. We still don't know when the rescheduled IPL is going to happen. They haven't cancelled it for this year. They keep saying they're going to postpone it. There is talk today about the T20 World Cup this year basically being pushed into next year, but still being played in Australia, and then that opens up the window. The trade-off for that is the IPL being played in the autumn slot.
Yeah, I think for the next few years there's going to be all sorts of fixture headaches, actually. I mean, we know that cricket as it stands, certainly internationally, tries to cram as much in as possible on as many days as possible. There's never a sense of less is more, is there? And that can only get worse now because they're going to try and cram everything in, and that's going to be the first fixture headache, I think, because I was expecting actually the ICC to postpone the World T20 today, but they haven't done so. I'm sure it will be postponed. I'm not sure why it's taking so long. But there's going to be a knock-on effect, as you say, Darren. And I think what we can say for certain is that the T20, the World T20 in Australia will be postponed, and that the IPL will take its place in October and November if everything's okay in India. And that means that the highest earning players will get their big IPL money, and I think that will ease their worries about taking a big financial hit from this, because I think international money and salaries are going to be reduced inevitably in the next few years. So if that happens in November, you've sort of kept the big guns relatively happy. But then, when are you going to hold this? Because there's meant to be another one, as we know, in India in October 2021. I wrote this morning, you could put it back to next March, but then it's going to clash with the Women's World Cup in New Zealand. And that's a big deal for cricket. You know, the women's game is very important to cricket. They don't want that to be overshadowed if possible. So then if it goes back to 2021, when's the Indian tournament going to be played? And wherever you look, there's a clash, really. And, we know that England are meant to be fitting in a test series in Sri Lanka that was postponed in March. Whether their India tour before and after Christmas can go ahead, we just don't know at the moment. So I think, it's going to take a long time, isn't it, before we're back to anything like normal. And there's going to be a real knock-on effect. But it'll certainly be worse if we can't get any cricket this summer.
But you got the World Test Championships to think about as well, or does that just get shelved?
I think that's gone, really. I think there hasn't been any talk about it, but I just can't see how that we can have a final of that at Lords next summer. I just think it's going to have to be shelved, really, sadly, and we're going to have to go back to playing, as much Test cricket as we can. Hopefully, this opportunity to sort of reset everything will make the administrators realise that, let's not travel quite so much. Let's not flog our players quite so much. I know we all like to watch lots of cricket, but I do think, you can have too much of a good thing if you're not careful. And the temptation will be after this to cram in even more to try and make up for, to try and make as much money back as possible of the millions that's been lost. But what you're going to get if you're not careful is real burnout and a lesser product, because the players won't be up for it. But at the moment that's a long way away. What we want now is some cricket, isn't it? And we're all in a position where we just want cricket, and if it happens this summer, then fantastic. And a 2-month season, or in international cricket's case, a 3-month season will be pretty much as good as we can get and hope for, I think, at this stage.
You might get player power as well coming into this, where players might say, look, actually, I don't want to play this much. I don't want to tour this much. I don't need to earn that extra money. Because, you're right. If you look at England's schedule, both home and away, over the last, let's say, 5 years, it is non-stop. It's 2 series at home, and then you've got these autumn tours. You then got the sort of spring tours. You've got, in the old days, you'd only ever play cricket in the West Indies in our spring. But now they seem to be playing all year round, and then all the franchise stuff that's thrown in as well. You're right. It is non-stop, and something's got to give. Yeah,
it is, and what really, it'll come down to whether players are prepared to take a bit of a cut in their earnings in many ways. The top players are paid a lot of money now, and they want to earn that IPL money as well, even though some of them earn close to $1 million a year from playing international cricket, but they want that big money as well, and who wouldn't, in their position. So I think there will be pressure to the IPL to certainly still have its window, whether it's in the same window, whether it gets moved. And international cricket is going to have to adapt to that. So let's hope that people are not greedy. Let's hope that people are sensible, and they operate this. They reorganise this calendar as sensibly as possible. But what I think is certain is that there's still going to be a window for the IPL, and that's not going away. I mean, I'm an old-fashioned person who thinks that international cricket should always take precedence over a domestic T20 competition. But I'm afraid, I'm fighting a losing battle on that one. The players are going to want to play in that competition, especially if there's just as much money as before in that competition, and especially if their England wages are going to take a hit now, which you think, moving forward when they renegotiate central contracts, it's inevitable. But they're still in an awful lot better position than those county players who are fearing for their very jobs now, particularly those ones who are in the final year of their contracts this year. We know there's, over 100 players in that camp who are not going to get too much of a chance to prove their worth for a new deal in a new financially sort of stricken world. But if we get 5 championship matches in 3 conferences and a final, and if we get a pretty full T20 blast in a similar sort of formula, then county cricketers are going to get their chance to show that they should be worth a new deal, and counties are going to hopefully earn as much money as they can to keep as many players in employment as possible. And it comes down as well whether members are going to take a refund on their membership. That's something as well, isn't it? Or whether members are going to just accept the hit this year if they get less cricket. And if they get 2 months cricket, there'll be more of a case for members to say, you know what, I'll pay my full membership for the good of the county to make sure my county exists next year. And I've still had a reasonable amount of cricket for my money. I'm an MCC member, and there's the prospect of getting absolutely nothing for the 550 quid this year. Should we be entitled to a refund like season ticket holders in football? But people are saying it's a members club, and for the greater good of the game, you've got to try and take the hit. And I think everybody, most people will be prepared to do that. I think if it means the game surviving as we know it, really.
I think we discussed this, that most of the clubs are members clubs still. They're not professionally owned and stuff like that. And the question there has got to be is, if the members, do they want a club next summer? It's the same with normal cricket clubs, isn't it? What are you going to do to support your local side, even if you're not going to play any cricket this summer? You prepared to see your club go under, or are you going to fork out a bit of money to help keep it going?
The difference between a membership and a season ticket. When you're buying a season ticket, you are buying a ticket to watch a game. If you're a member of something, or a member of a club, that's, in my eyes, that's slightly different. It comes back to that MCC argument as well that we've talked about.
Does make a difference.
Yeah, and we all want to do our bit, don't we? We all want to do our bit if we can, but of course, people in the normal world are fearing for their jobs as well, aren't they? So they might be less inclined to sort of think, okay, I can spare my membership fee for this year for the greater good of cricket. That's all very well if that particular person has a job at the end of this as well. So these are all things that need to be considered, aren't they? But I do still think today is good news. I hope people think of it as good news.
I think
we are, a lot more advanced than we were, say, 2 weeks ago. Really.
Well, when you were last on the show, we were just talking about the likelihood of nothing at all, weren't we? Maybe a truncated T20, but that would have been it.
Exactly. I really did think there would be nothing domestically, actually, up until very recently. So, but to be fair to people like Richard Gould at Surrey and is it Daniel Gidney at Lancashire? I forgot his name, and other people like that. They've never given up on it, and hopefully they're going to be rewarded for that determination in the next few months.
Paul, thank you very much for joining us a bit last minute
as
these things are. I'm sure in the next few weeks we'll have you back on last minute as things change again.
always.
And at some point back in the studio.
Yeah, hopefully back in the studio soon as well.
Well, hopefully back in the studio, but very happy to always be called up at the last minute.
Wonderful.
Cheers, Paul. Thank you very much indeed. Keep well.
Thank you, gents.
Cheers.
Keep up the good work.
Okay. Bye.